You are now live.
Got it.
This is Senate Appropriations, and our first item on today's agenda is to take up a bill that's been referred to us. It's S-169, and it has to do with education property tax overpayments. And we actually dealt with part of this bill in the budget adjustment. It involved overpayment by the city of Barre for a little more than $20,000. And the easiest way of dealing, we just stripped out the appropriation of the 20,000 and put it in the BAA. But this bill itself has authorizing language so that it doesn't take legislative action to issue these overpayments. And so I just wanted to make the connection with action we already took, and that was to remove the appropriation to the city of Barre, put it in the BAA, and then we can deal with the rest of the bill and the language separately. And that's what we're going to do today. And so we have Abby Shepherd here who can help us run through the bill, and then we can just take action to move it favorably, or and because our clerk is not with us, Senator Westman has agreed to be our interim clerk. So Abby, shall you just give us a run through of, there you are, of S-169.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, Abby Shepherd, Office of Legislative Counsel. That's a great introduction because that pretty much summarizes the first section, which, as you know, did pass out of the Senate in the Budget Adjustment Act. So would you like me to focus more on Section 2 and then explain some of the amendments proposed by Senate Finance?
Yes, please.
Great. So actually, just taking a step back, the $20,000 that was put into the Budget Adjustment Act was very specifically geared towards insufficient retention from the TIF district in Barre City. And for even a little more background, in the last couple of years, there haven't been exactly that issue. There have been other small issues with miscalculation, for example, errors in counting pupils. The Agency of Education has brought a few similar, very small sort of ministerial errors that have resulted in overpayments by towns or school districts to the education fund. Another similar change, I think 5 years ago at this point, occurred with a misclassification of property between homestead and non-homestead in a town in the state. So there was a return of that amount that was overpaid to that town directly. So one of the suggestions that came out of the state auditor's report on the city of Barre was to allow the Agency of Education to have ongoing authority so that towns and school districts wouldn't need to come to the legislature, and the Agency of Education wouldn't have to request these small amounts. Doesn't seem to happen every year, but fairly frequently. So what S-169 does in Section 2, you have under my name, I don't know, does the committee would you like me to screen share, or would you?
Sure. Yes, if you want to do that, that's fine.
Great. Give me just a moment. So I'm going to share the bill as introduced because the Senate Finance Committee's amendments were very, very small, and there were instances of amendments. I'll just explain what they changed in the underlying bill.
I'm sure we'll like it since we've already authorized the payment.
We'd better.
So as you'll see, Section 1 is what you had authorized in the Budget Adjustment Act. Actually, in this section, there was some discussion about the date. It does say not later than fiscal year 2023. That was drafted as a way to authorize immediate payment in the way that the Senate did vote out so that it can go out this fiscal year. Mm-hmm. It could also, the way it's drafted here, it could also occur during the next fiscal year. So in fiscal year 23, Senate Finance had put a date certain, so it would be June 30th, on or before June 30th.
And that's what we kept.
It stayed not later than fiscal year 2023.
Oh, it
has the same effect.
Okay.
But that is one small difference between what Senate Finance had suggested.
Except that doesn't matter because we struck that and dealt with it. In the BAA.
The BAA has the not later than fiscal year 2023 language in it. In any case, it's the payment is authorized once that passes.
No, what I was saying is I thought section 1 would be deleted. We struck it because we dealt with it in the BAA.
Yes, absolutely. If the committee wished to move this bill, that would be advisable because that language is already in the BAA.
Yeah. Okay. So we need to recognize that and strike that section.
I can prepare an amendment for the committee on that. And section 2 addresses the ongoing authority for the Agency of Education to make payments out of the education fund. So this is the section in Title 16 relating to education payments. And I'll try not to make anyone sick. I'll scroll slowly. On page 3, it adds a new subsection D, which has a couple of important parts. It authorizes the secretary to have the discretion to make refunds from the education fund to a municipality or a school district for their overpayments of the statewide education property tax during the immediately preceding 4 fiscal years. So it does have a time limit. It can't go back more than the immediately preceding 4 fiscal years. It has to happen on or before June 30th. And the overpayments that may be refunded are only those that were caused by clerical or administrative error or miscalculation. So it really intended to be smaller, less, not very large amounts. Typically, they have been, like, as you see in this bill, in the tens of thousands. Some have been a little bit more, but to my knowledge, the ones that I've seen in the last few years, I don't think any exceeded $400,000, and that was over the course of several fiscal years. Also, I'm sorry, was there a question?
Senator Starr Senator Sears.
Yeah, if it's 4 years, annually on or before June 30th, may authorize funds, but if it's 4 years ago, they could authorize up to, but they have to wait on or before June 30th. So if it was in 2018, they'd have to do it by June 30th, 2022. Is that correct?
That's correct. So it does create a
what amounts are we talking about here? 100,000 or $1 million or?
Quite a bit less. So the amounts in the last 2 acts that I found, one in 2020 and one in 2017, were quite small. Let me just pull that up. I'm sorry, I didn't write that down. The most recent payments were compensation for overpayment to the education fund. One was in the amount of a little over 148,000. Another was 48,000. There was a 275,000 payment. Those were really the largest that I've seen. And then in 2017, sorry, I'm just pulling up the act. A little over 50, almost 57,000.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if there shouldn't be a maximum. I mean, before you go back to the legislature, and I just am concerned that you could have real consequences if it's a huge, I don't know how much it could be, but
Well, in other words,
I would say anything over 250,000, for example.
So may authorize refunds not to exceed amount of 250,000 from the ed fund.
Something of that nature, because when they're really, and I do think you want somebody looking at it when it's.
So if I may, the second sentence in this subsection does provide ongoing oversight by the legislature. So prior to issuing any refunds on or before January 15th of each year, the Secretary of Education must report to the General Assembly any anticipated refunds. So there is that guardrail if it were
I
determined.
don't
that
think
amount-
that's yeah, but my experience is most legislators
Don't read it.
don't read it. Many of these reports, that's why we had a report on reports to get rid of reports.
So
'cause
maybe
nobody
we
was
should have
reading
it
the report.
report to the joint fiscal or something.
Yeah,
That's
that
what
would be
I
much
would
better.
agree to.
That's
Um,
more likely to get noticed.
Yeah, the General Assembly is all 180 and that, okay. But the January 15th,
Yes, may I just ask, are you seeing my screen? I just switched to a different language. I'm not sure if you can see it or not.
Yeah.
Yes.
yes, we can.
Okay. It's with the amendment language.
Oh, it's saying House Committees on Education, Ways and Means.
Yes,
Okay,
and that this is what the Finance Committee had recommended. If you also wish to receive the report, appropriations could be added in as well.
Well, wouldn't it make it more simple if it just went to the joint fiscal committee for their approval? Because you guys meet monthly, don't you, Jane?
no, but then you're getting into approving, $20,000 corrections. I don't think that's what they're trying to
That wasn't
eliminate.
what I had in mind. There needs to be some kind of a oversight or a maximum or minimum limit. Maximum limit, yeah. So I would be more comfortable with joint fiscal looking at it. Because that means the joint fiscal office is reporting on it.
What is the language, though? Are they making payments before the report? I just want to,
No, that's correct. So the way
Okay.
it's structured is the report would be required on or before January 15th and then on or before June 30th. But the secretary could not make payments prior to reporting to the General Assembly.
so that's, that would give the legislature and the committee's jurisdiction the opportunity to weigh in well in advance of any payment going out.
That's correct.
Would that make it kind of late sometimes in the year? But it's all money that's floating anyway, so it really doesn't matter. You
No,
know,
it looks like the
doesn't-
sequence here is obviously the district would request or the municipality or school district would request the payment. And then before any payment is issued, the requested amount is reported to the identified committees here on and before January 15th. And then they would have time to act between January 15th and June 30th to weigh in if something seemed to be egregious or questionable.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, that would work. I mean, it's no different than it is basically right now.
Well, we would hope that those subject matter committees would, that due diligence, if there seemed to be something that was really, as well as the agency, something that really doesn't meet, because there are conditions around it's a miscalculation, it's an error. I can't remember what the 3 conditions were on the prior section, but it defines the conditions under which an underpayment would be considered.
Yep.
So now that we've seen this additional language, which is a different way of addressing this concern, and there would be an opportunity for the legislature to review any of these payments before they went out and to take any action to understand them better or to stop them or whatever action might be appropriate.
Yeah, I think that's fine, Jane.
Okay, all right. So that will take care of it. It seems like the amounts are relatively modest in the scheme of a fund that is almost equal to the general fund. Other questions? Otherwise, we can just keep going.
Okay, the final two sections are more conforming changes. So it does add in a new authorization for use of education fund monies, which is to refund municipalities and school districts under the preceding subsection. This also had a slight change by the Senate Finance Committee that added in the words "in consultation with the Commissioner of Taxes," so that the Secretary of Education would also be alerting the Department of Taxes. And lastly, the effective date is July 1st, 2022. The Senate Finance Committee had proposed changing the effective date to on passage in order to allow the Berry refund to happen on June 30th. So if your committee wished to strike that first section for the Berry City refund, then the effective date could remain July 1st, or it could be on passage, whatever you prefer.
I would think July 1st would work fine because you're going to have 4 years and you've got to report it. So it's hard to imagine all that would happen. It couldn't happen this
Exactly.
year.
It would not be
No.
able to happen.
No.
That's right.
Fine by me.
So committee, then what we are talking about, because we've already dealt with the appropriation, is to strike that first section. And we would have an amendment to do that and then move the bill favorably as amended. So the first motion would be to strike section 1. Is there a motion to-
We strike section 1.
Okay,
I'll
Senator
second.
Sears and then seconded by Senator Westman. You want to call the roll?
On the amendment,
Yes.
okay. Senator Balance not here, Senator Bruce not here, Senator Nika,
Yes.
Senator Seer,
Yes,
Senator Starr,
Yes,
Senator Westman, yes, Senator Kitchell,
Yes.
now I'd move the bill. Well, one question before we move the bill. Are we accepting the Finance Committee amendments? And do we incorporate them into our amendment or do we just,
we're just striking. Yeah.
okay,
Their
Well,
amendment we'd accept
I
that.
guess what we're doing is amending the bill as amended by finance.
I move we amend the bill.
Abby, can you help us with this?
Yes, so I think that is the correct approach because you are completely removing section 1, whereas the Finance Committee had amended that section. So I think you can accept their amendments and then make further amendments. I believe I would have to check with Secretary Bloomer, but I think that's the correct vote.
We approve the bill as amended, and that gets us away from what amendments we made.
that's right.
Then Abby can write it up properly.
Okay, so
Yeah.
we are going to move the bill favorably as
Amended.
amended by the Appropriations Committee.
Yes. I'll second Sears's motion.
I like Westman as the clerk. I think he does a good job.
I'm writing it down. I got it all down. Balance not here. Baruch is not here. Senator Nika,
Yes.
Senator Sears,
Yes,
Senator Starr,
Yes,
Senator Westman, yes, Senator Kitchell,
Yes.
and the reporter.
Who
Bruce
has it?
usually.
Baruch does education. I'll do it because it ties into the BAA. Did everybody get a copy of the Dear Jane letter, or actually Dear Conferee's letter?
Yeah, I was
Chrissy
surprised
sent it
that
out.
I
the
think
speakers
you
in the
guys-
conference committee.
On our email?
Yes.
Yeah.
Who did it come from?
Chrissy.
The Secretary of Administration.
So, Abby, if you will give me, the amendment, and then I will approve it and indicate the vote and that I'm the reporter and send it to the Secretary of the Senate's office.
Excellent. I will provide that to you this afternoon. And just to confirm, you did wish to keep the effective date as July 1st.
Yeah, because there's no need to make it upon passage because the timing doesn't work. You can't meet that time. Yeah.
And
Okay.
Abby, can you send that to me? And then I included in an email that Senator Kitchell will reply all to the Senate Secretary's office when you have the amendment. That would be great. And Senator
Great.
Westman, can you also repeat the vote for me? I apologize.
The vote is 5-0-2.
Great. Thank you very much.
So when you say, Jane, when you say the Dear Jane letter, you mean the one we got earlier this year?
No, it's the one that came within hours of our passing the BAA that from the new Secretary of Administration outlining their displeasure with our Budget Adjustment Act.
What's that?
No, I don't think, I didn't get it.
I don't remember seeing that.
Would have been.
Would have been sent out last night.
Tuesday night or Wednesday morning, I believe.
I'll resend it. I sent it, but I'll just send it again so you guys have it at the top of
I
your inbox.
saw it, yeah.
I haven't had a chance to read it then. Maybe it's here.
And they addressed it to conferees.
Yes, but we don't have a conference committee.
Well, that's what I
Appointed.
was gonna ask. When did that get named?
Yeah,
didn't.
because you didn't get the letter, right? So you're out.
Mhm.
No, everybody got the
I-
letter, just that doesn't mean he's out. Because the speaker is not on the conference committee normally.
Well, they might change their ways. I don't know. Maybe the administration knows something we don't.
Maybe. I think, well, anyway, they're not totally happy with the use of ARPA. They do appreciate our swapping out, but and
Oh, here it is. I see it.
yeah, and I think the prevailing wage section is probably an issue. And the fact that we moved the 20 million for the rental registry independently of the BAA, which seemed to indicate that the governor is going to veto it based on
Well, we
the
got
way
a
the
pretty
letter
good,
was.
we got a pretty good vote out of the Senate.
Yeah, you're right. We did.
Yeah,
So-
Alice,
Not because I love it, that's for sure.
S210 will have to go. I think the one thing that we see very differently, and that is general fund and preserving general fund that has the greatest flexibility. And if we really want to leverage federal dollars, we've got to start saving general fund as opposed to using ARPA, because you can't use, well, maybe they're going to try, but I don't think you can use ARPA to match. So you're losing all that leverage. If you use general fund first before ARPA can't be your match for the federal infrastructure bill. So maybe they'll change their mind and do like CRF because states are going to have a hard time with that. But right now you can't.
no.
So I'm going to move on. It's only 1:55. We're 5 minutes ahead. I see Wendy Koenig is on. Is President Garamella on as well?
He'll be joining us shortly.
How are you,
Stephanie?
Wendy?
I'm doing really well. How are all of you?
We're good.
Well, I'm ordering my seeds for next year.
Oh, good.
And I would like that photograph of the president and me standing in front of my braids of onions.
Okay, I will send it to you. Her garden is amazing. We were overwhelmed with its magnitude.
I was overwhelmed at times myself.
I bet you were.
I'm out there at 5:30 picking up potato beetles. But I'm going to order some more of those little eggplants.
Well, those were delicious. And also your ghost pepper, I loved it.
Oh, you mean the Carolina Reaper?
Yeah, the Carolina Reaper. I made salsa with it.
You can only use about 2 per gallon.
Well, I just used one.
Oh, they're pretty hot. They're supposed to be the hottest pepper.
It was really tasty.
Well, I'm glad. We thought it was tasty. So we have Senator Westman is coming back. We have President Garamella with us. So as soon as Senator Westman comes, we'll get started with your testimony. I assume that you're not, that's not like Champlain today behind you.
No, that was a picture of Lake Champlain about 3 summers ago.
Mhm.
It's just me dreaming of when Lake Champlain looks like that again.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, I don't know what happened to Senator Westman.
Is Senator Baruth joining?
No, Senator Baruth is out today and tomorrow. So I realize he has higher education, but he wasn't able to, he was taking, I don't know, he had personal business to take care of. So
He's celebrating his birthday. Come on.
It's his birthday today, yeah.
we all know it was on Facebook, and not only that, it tells you how old you are. So this
I know,
is a
that's
big
kind
one.
of rude.
This is a big one. He's turning into a different decade of age, but
gonna
he's
be
still
50.
younger than
Yeah.
most of us. Senator Westman, I think probably no, you'd be the, if you're more than six.
I'm older than he is.
Okay, well, we did get a photograph of former Senator Ash delivered a nice birthday cake to his house a couple of nights ago. And
Well, that was very nice.
yeah, it was. Only Senator Baruth was not answering the door because he was participating in a public hearing. So
Oh, no.
Senator Westman and I got a text from Tim
Yes, and
saying, please have him come to the front door. I'm standing here with a cake that's got the candles lighted. So
And it had walnuts that in the shape of his the letters in his name. So it was very cute.
Oh,
it was
Oh,
very
that's really,
fun.
that's sweet.
So with that, President Garamella, we've gone through the garden, we've gone through birthdays, we've gone through a whole lot of stuff. And it's just not quite 1 o'clock, so 2 o'clock. So we haven't really intruded too much on your time to present the UVM budget, but I'm sure it's one that's bringing a smile to your face as the governor has recommended.
absolutely. Well, thank you. And of course, I know you've all been very supportive, and we want to see it come through. And I guess it's good for Vermont. So yes, I'm pleased so far, and hope we will have good news by the end of the session. And when you tell me to, I will be happy to make some.
All right,
remarks.
you can start anytime. Do you want a screen share?
No, I didn't
No.
know if it's had to be recorded. I guess it's on live. It's live already, so we're good.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Senator Kitchell, and really all of you. I was pleased to see Senator Sears actually down in Bennington recently. I think he's the one person actually both of you have seen live most recently. So it's great. And I really thank you for the opportunity to talk to you. And again, for those of you who I'm seeing for the first time this year, a Happy New Year. I know it's the second month, but I hope this year soon brings us a mask-free and a COVID-free period when, when we can be human again. So I thought it might help for me to give you a quick update on UVM, sort of a state of the university, if you will. So speaking of COVID, I'm just very, very, very proud of our students. They've all sort of complied with the vaccination requirement, the booster requirement, and at least, and then we've distributed high quality masks to all the employees and students. And, possibly because of that, our positivity rate is very low. We've been getting 98% or so of the students testing negative, which, as you know, compared to the state average is far for, well, less positivity. And so this is great because it allows us to have in-person classes, the quality of education that we all want to give. And I think importantly, as you all know well, the mental health of the students and the growth of the students, the emotional growth of the students is greatly benefited. And really, throughout COVID, we've been able at UVM to stay open, except for that very brief period at the beginning from March through the end of the semester in 2020. So I'm quite proud of our faculty, our staff, our students that have come together to keep the community safe and the campus safe. So I also would like to thank you all for the funding we got through CARES Act funding last year, that we couldn't have done it without that because the expenses were staggering. And CARES Act funding certainly helped us defray part of those costs. So I, as you know, have been passionate about the affordability and accessibility of a UVM education for our students. We've kept tuition flat now for 4 years. We've held room and board the same without increasing it. And we cut some undergrad fees last year, some graduate fees this year. So we're really very committed to making an education at UVM more affordable. As you may recall, UVM was and continues to be one of the most expensive public higher ed institutions in the country. And that's not a record that, that is friendly to our students. And I'm going to do all I can and have been doing all we can to address that. The other thing I'm very proud of is year after year, we add very significantly to the workforce in Vermont at the high quality trained students. We add over 1,000 students that have graduated to the Vermont workforce each year. And over half of them are from out of state, which, as you know, is perhaps the greatest source of brain gain for the state of Vermont. No other entity brings in, 1,100 or whatever, over 1,000 students into the workforce every year. There was this program last year that was supported out of the legislature, thank you, called Upskill Vermont. And as you know, we participated and partnered very closely with CCV to offer courses, and they were gone in like 24 hours. And we had a long wait list of Vermonters who wanted to take more courses, take those courses. So I really think it's a proven program. It helps our workforce train itself better. And I hope that the legislature will find it, sort of beneficial to continue to support things like that. And if you do, we're at the table. We're happy to help people get back to work in a post-COVID landscape. I really feel like those Vermonters who have some college but no degree, et cetera, hopefully this is a pathway for them to dip their toe back in, get some courses and continue to advance themselves, because we all know that with a degree, you can get higher quality jobs, higher paying jobs, et cetera. And again, I commend President Joyce Judy for her partnership from the day I arrived. We've significantly ballooned the partnership between the two institutions, and we now almost have pathway programs, 2+2s, et cetera, in every area pretty much of the education that we provide. And in terms of an update, the last thing I would say is on research. We continue our cutting edge research. Our students and faculty and staff are solving problems that are critical to Vermont, critical to the nation and to the world. And we certainly appreciate the Arpa funding we received last year to do some work in COVID-19 and infectious disease areas. And so I think the research continues to, I think we punch way above our weight for a small state like ours, and it's being noticed. And you have my commitment that we will continue to contribute in that way. So I guess that's the brief status update. I believe we've been doing our part, being very good stewards of the state funding we get, but we now need the legislature's help. As Senator Kitchell, you mentioned, the governor, I'm very, very thankful to the governor for including the $10 million increase in our base appropriation in his budget. I'll remind everyone again that UVM has not received an increase in 14 years. No increase at all in 14 years. And that means, if you do a quick calculation, we're down about 25% in real value of the dollars from 14 years ago. So the 10 million basically brings us back to where we were value of the money wise 14 years ago. So what this funding will do is to allow us to continue our commitment to affordability and access. And really, I think that helps us serve the land grant mission that we hold so dear to the state. This is the land of just and moral land grant. The Land Grant Act is what brought education and higher education to the masses, to working class Americans, and not just the privileged. And I feel that is an extremely important mission of ours. So the base increase will allow us to remain strong, remain healthy and competitive for the years ahead. COVID has challenged every higher ed institution. Some are increasing tuition, but some schools in our neighborhood have also kept tuition flat. If we continue to increase our tuition and become more expensive, it will actually hurt us. And over time, I think it does not give us the financial and long-term sustainability that I think is very important to the state of Vermont. And besides the base appropriation increase, we've also, as you recall, last year, we had a carryover request for Arpa funds. We requested $30 million to upgrade some of our HVAC facilities campus-wide. We have very old buildings on campus, very old systems in some buildings, and we respectfully resubmit that request from the Arpa funds. As you know, COVID brought home starkly the importance of air quality in buildings on campus. And so we'd like to offer the safest environment possible to our students, our faculty, our staff in these buildings. And I understand this is an allowable use of ARPA funding. It's an appropriate use of ARPA funding, and it'll have a major impact on the quality of our environment for many years to come. So those were the two pieces of our request. One's a base, one's a one-time. And with that, I want to allow certainly time for any questions. And Senator Kitchell, back to you. Thank you for having me, and I'm happy to try and answer any questions.
Okay, committee, questions of, yes, Senator Starr.
Yes, welcome, and it's good to see you, Mr. President. I'm wondering how much carry forward in APRA did you have to that you could use this next year?
Carry forward in the one-time funding, or?
Yeah, the APRA funds.
Yeah. So I think the CARES funds, we had just round numbers. We had either from net revenue loss or added expenses due to COVID, about 60, 65, $70 million of added expenses. We got about 30 million or so from the state. So it went partway to supporting our expenses, but carry over, I wanted to make sure I understood the question. No, we have a hole to carry over, but we've filled it, the best we could. And the ARPA request now is for very specific improvements in ventilation and air quality and such.
Well, we're having discussions, and this gets into what is the word transformative mean and what qualifies as transformative. And our definition seems to be a bit more expansive than the governor's definition as it relates to the use of ARPA money. So we will obviously put your request on our list for consideration, but we're still trying to work that out. Sometimes transformative seems to be infrastructure. I suppose you could argue that you're improving your infrastructure.
I think the governor has said, yeah, in my conversations with him, he seems to always be interested in converting one-time funds, right, the ARPA funds, into long-term impact. And I think this is a good way to do that. So that's, but you're the experts, so I will leave it to you. I know you can figure it out and you will get us a 30 million.
Well, we will put it on our list of things to consider and figure out. I can assure you that. Other
Thank you.
questions of the president? Senator Sears, anything?
Actually,
Okay.
had a great meeting in Bennington at Bennington College, and it was helpful to learn about what's going on at the university. Obviously, haven't been able to visit in a couple of years. Because I can't go to Burlington anymore anyway because of a parking
We'll give you free parking and we'll have lunch at this table right behind me. Senator Sears, you're welcome anytime.
Sounds good. I'll take a different car. I'll
It's
borrow
the traffic.
Kitchell's. It's the traffic.
It's the traffic. Oh,
Yeah.
oh.
No traffic, parking ticket.
We'll get Beta to send a plane down for you and bring you over in an electric plane.
Ah,
Actually, we had testimony in transportation this morning from Beta around their electric plane and the technology. It's really impressive what they're doing. And what was particularly rewarding is the feedback, because all we ever get is Vermont's terrible, we hate business, nothing is good. I mean, all we do is emphasize our shortcomings and never celebrate our strengths, it seems as though. But the witness was very complimentary in terms of talking with our institutions of higher ed and how responsive they are. And as a state, we're much more nimble, much more accessive, much more responsive, and helping navigate permitting or, the VITA financing. And so they were saying there are other things than just the plain old, amount of the incentive, that they could have gotten a lot more money, in Arkansas, but the whole environment and the way in which government and education and other business sectors work here in Vermont are just that's worth money too. And
Right.
we tend not to sort of put a value, as well as the quality of life.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a refreshing bit of testimony to get. And it was very complimentary, because I know that I believe they referenced discussions with you or your staff and the
They are
other.
an amazing success story. And Kyle Clark is a child of Vermont. He is not going anywhere. I had a long meeting with him and his staff around Thanksgiving. And boy, I mean, it's so uplifting. If any of you needs a quick lift up, and I don't mean in the plane, just go and visit, because he's so full of cheer and positivity and is growing. And half of the people or more at Beta are UVM grads, I'll have you note. And Senator Kitchell, there's no greater cheerleader for Vermont than me. You should follow my tweets. I talk up all the good things all the time. I think there's a lot of good things in Vermont. I agree with you that we should celebrate the good things that we have.
Yeah, I think too often all we do is lament what we think don't have, and it tends to crowd out the really positive and the real strengths of the state.
I agree.
I probably shouldn't say this live, but part of the problem is too many people don't get out of, well, I usually say out of Bennington, but get out of state to look at what the situation is in other states. And so they're comparing, they're not comparing what we've done. I often hear from constituents about how bad our downtown is, but they don't go visit even Brattleboro, which our downtown is much advanced to that one. So I think it's what you compare it to. I do think that the $10 million is an important investment. We should make that when we do the budget, which I told the president I would support when I
Thank you,
met
sir.
with him.
Thank you very much.
But
Senator.
we also talked a little bit about concern about the new name, and I don't know if anybody else nobody consulted me about the new name of the state colleges, but to have the University of Vermont and then Vermont State University, it becomes a little confusing to some people.
I've heard that argument, but it's so common in other states. You have Penn State, but you
Wow.
have Penn. You've got Ohio State and University, same as Michigan.
Well,
So,
I'm concerned. I
yeah.
just say I'm concerned that.
And so, usually your University of Michigan or University of Vermont is your flagship
Yep.
institution.
I'll keep my thoughts to myself.
Well,
I agree with the people of Castleton.
Well, they don't want to change at all. So,
Right.
So I do know, I'm very well aware of the concern and the name change. But I don't know, UVM has got a very strong, such a strong identity.
I know they got a couple of good basketball teams.
Mhm.
We
I mean,
also
those-
have championship soccer teams in men and women, and
Yeah.
we have 13 students from UVM and 20 or so from Vermont that are in the Olympics. I really think we're doing very well.
Mhm.
Our hockey teams are doing well. So, you must have heard about the women's ice hockey team, what they did, and
Yeah.
top 10. Really, I didn't think I'd come here and preside over, a great athletics institution, but we're becoming one, which is quite wonderful.
And you haven't lost a football game since what, 1972?
And we don't intend to lose any.
1974.
Oh,
All right,
74.
that's where I end the conversation. This has been a pleasant conversation up till now.
I think Senator Sears might have been one of those football stars.
Players, yeah.
Well, I don't know. I wasn't a star, but
Oh,
we're
Um,
disappointed that we haven't ever gotten back to. But
well,
although
I have to
looking at
tell
the
you,
University of Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, and New Hampshire, and Maine, whom we used to play back in the Yankee Conference, all that's changed, and they've gone through some really rough periods as well.
well, I hear this from my son, who is in academia, and he laments the amount of money that goes for, if you've got these big name teams, but so many colleges and universities, the amount of money that it takes to support, particularly football. It's a very expensive sport.
Yeah.
And the expense or the competition or how that money could be used to strengthen academic programs or other opportunities. So I get that fairly routinely about.
But in many of those universities and colleges, though, that football does support all the other sports
Well,
with the revenue from ticket sales and so forth. If you
yeah,
look
that's a very high-powered team that does that.
well, I think the president of UVM came from a place with a fairly
Yes.
big time football team.
Is it
Purdue,
like- What are they, the
So-
Fighting Irish?
no.
How could you?
Oh, look out.
You're doing
now.
that on purpose.
I know. I'm sorry. I apologize. I couldn't resist.
Yes, of course. Purdue was the one of 6 when I left there where the athletics program was net positive and contributed back to scholarships. Almost all the rest actually subsidized their athletics programs. I'm actually very proud of UVM's athletics because it's D1, and yet it really is about the student athletes. Our student athletes this year, for the 20th semester out of 24, have a higher GPA than the average student at UVM. Our, it's really a very strong program where the values are very important. So I think this is a good scale, a good way to focus, in my mind.
Yeah. A lot of those schools with high-profile football teams, they have kids that get hurt that last through their whole lifetime, and at least we aren't providing a sport for that.
Well, I do apologize. In my humor, I didn't mean to.
Actually, they're the Boilermakers, Senator. They make
She knows.
boilers there.
I believe
At
Bill
Purdue, they make
Sorrell, our
boilers.
former colleague and and state's attorney and secretary of administration was a Notre Dame alum.
They had $400 million of loose change. They didn't know what to do with it. So they went and built another athletics thing. So Notre Dame is in a different league in terms of money. They have a direct line to God, you know, so.
Well, that does help. That
Yeah.
does help.
Yeah.
As appropriations committee, I guess that would help us too. Because we had a public hearing last night and the list of requests was fairly extensive. So other comments or questions or information people would like? Other than we rarely get to Burlington anymore.
Come on over.
Yeah.
Well, I might.
I have an appropriations committee meeting here and we will offer you, you know, a meal and a clean environment with some better ventilation because you'll have given us $1 million.
Well, you might just have to open the window.
We
Actually, we should take him up
Get
on that offer.
earlier.
We actually just did a campus tour for our legislative trustees, and we're commenting that that might be a great thing for some other committees to do. So if you're ever wanting to do that, we'll arrange it.
Well, if you serve in the Senate, it's very difficult to take a day away because we serve on 2 committees. That's our problem.
That's right.
I serve on transportation. We would love to take the train down to Middlebury where we re-engineered that whole downtown with the tunnel, and it's a very, it looks lovely what has been done. Extremely complicated project, but we'd have to do it on a weekend or on a Monday because I can't, you know, take a day away from this committee to do it. So if those are House members, they probably have more flexibility
If
to
you're
take you up on
interested
that
though,
offer.
we can work with your schedule. We can, Mondays, whatever. Obviously, I know you're very busy, especially during the session, but if it's of interest to tour facilities or host a meeting here, so please know that we're ready to work with you.
Okay.
In the off
Right.
session, that's better.
Yeah, off session. But then I'm in my garden, Wendy.
Yeah, I know, I forgot.
You can all come and I'll put you to work.
Very good idea.
Other questions or comments? Well, thank you. We're very proud of our university and we have very many talented graduates, including one who serves on our committee. If there are not any further questions, we can.
Well, I went to the court and had my student files expunged.
I kept a copy.
I think probably a lot of us would like to do that. Because we had a lot of competition for those, whatever. So those are the old days, weren't they? Thank you very much, President Garamella, and thank you, Wendy. And we will move on to the, we have the Department of Mental Health that's coming in right after you. So appreciate
Thank
your
you so
coming
much.
today. And
Thank you.
Thank
and
you
if we
very
need
much,
a
all of
meeting
you.
place, we'll give Wendy a call.
Please
Sounds
do.
good.
And if you have more questions as you move along in the process, I'm happy to hop on a Zoom call anytime you'd like. So thank you very much. All right.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Are we that far ahead?
We are that far ahead, and I've been communicating with Jen at DMH, and she is rallying their team to join us early. So they should be on in the next few moments. And hi, Daisy.
Hi there, I'm the Senior Policy Advisor. Our team will be here shortly, and I'm here to support them in the background, and we have a slideshow.
So perhaps we should just go offline from until we have a chance to, until we have a chance to make sure that, because I realize we're kind of doing this accelerated schedule, but
Yeah, I'll go offline and we'll let people know that we'll be back online in about 5 minutes.